Hey, welcome to Three Count Commentaries. This is your boy MongoSlade, and today we're going to talk about the fourth quarter earnings call from WWE. I got a lot of notes. Um, we would probably be here longer than my 1 hour time limit if I was to go through all of these goddamn notes. It took me an hour and a half to listen to listen to this conference call, and then at the end of it, I was like, I can't use most of this shit. Well, I'm just going to talk about some of the things I think are the most relevant. Obviously, I'm going to skip all of the accounting stuff. Most people have no idea about accounting. I took some classes that taught some accounting, but I'm not an expert by any means on the accounting part. So I'm gonna skip over that. That's a lot of the Christina stuff. I'm gonna focus mostly on what Nick Khan had to say and mostly on what Stephanie had to say because the Stephanie stuff is really interesting. So they talked about Superstar Spectacle and that India was already a pretty robust market, but it's expected like 20 million people watch the Superstar Spectacle, and they said that Sony is their partner on this, and they've been pretty excited, and they expect there will be more of them. This that 20 million figure kind of knocked people down, but India is a very poor country. I'm not sure whether this was on free TV or their version of cable. I know I have at least one Indian subscriber that could let me know how this came across on TV. Also, I guess we should talk about this because he talked about Latin America next. So he talked about Latin America. He talked about bringing in talent that resonate with particular international markets, and he says that essentially authentic talent. So he started talking about Bad Bunny, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest collaboration, and the various successes that have taken place. Like how Bad Bunny's merchandise has sort of been one of the hottest selling properties they've ever done. The 35 total million views related to Bad Bunny, the total 2.5 million total engagements related to Bad Bunny. How it was reported in the mainstream media, but they used the dreaded Latinx. They use the term Latinx. Now, I'm going to take a pause right here. I heard that Latinx shit twice in this conference call. Once you start accepting the language of certain kinds of people, they control you. Let's just put it like that. There is no such people as Latinx. I've never heard any Latin American society accept the terms Latinx. That's bullshit speak. That was created in a university. But it's now in corporate boardrooms. So it's fucked. This progressive stuff is really it's cancerous. And to further that point, I saw in the comment section too. I was listening to this on Fightful's account. I should say that on Fightful's YouTube account. And there was somebody in the comment section. They were saying, "Wow, it sucks that Damian Priest is getting pushed because he's Puerto Rican and not just because they like him." And I said to themselves, like, when you have that progressive mindset, that's what happens. It becomes you cease to exist. You just become an interchangeable piece of business. Like he's Puerto Rican, therefore we're trying to get into the Puerto Rican market or try to expand the Puerto Rican market. We got a Puerto Rican rapper here. Let's just pair them together. You're no longer an individual. This is the thought process behind quote unquote representation. This is why I'm always talking against it. But people don't understand that it's the business now. This is how business is done. This is how business has always been done, though. Guys were, Bill Watts. You had New Orleans was a big black city, so he had a black champion. Even though people thought Bill Watts was racist, he was one of the only promoters that had a top guy that was black because he served in black areas. Tulsa was another one, big black city. So it is what it is. I know a lot of people are upset about that, or they might be, but they have said over and over again, Nick Khan said, bringing in authentic talent that resonate with particular international markets. They speak the language. That's one of the important things. Rey Mysterio was another one they mentioned when they talked about when Stephanie, we get to this part about Stephanie, Rey Mysterio was specifically mentioned. So, they look for wrestlers that resonate with that audience, and It is what it is. I don't necessarily like it. I think it's kind of, I think it devalues the individual. But, this is the world we live in now. And the world probably we already lived in because, representation and all that stuff. They talked about making championships for specific teams that they've been working with one franchise to make championships for specific franchises. So, they ship titles to a franchise when they win a world championship, like the NBA Finals or something like that. Now they're going to be working with a franchise to make these customized with the logos of the brand. So that's pretty interesting. That's fun. So we get into the Stephanie stuff, which I thought was really interesting. So Stephanie talked about staying ahead of the curve, and basically that was the theme of her piece of this. And this is the craziest thing. This is the most asinine thing in the world. Literally, she talked about the creation of the WWE network, right? She talking about, our audience is 5 times more likely to consume online video, which is why they became one of YouTube's first paid partners. And that led to the creation of the WWE network and the cannibalization of the pay-per-view model, right? She says this. Why were these idiots still talking about TV ratings? These people don't get it. This was years ago. The network was created, 6 years ago? 7 years ago? Something like that? And there are still people asking her about TV ratings, but we'll get there when we get to the Q&A portion. So she talked about the network, licensing the network to Peacock. She says the landscape changed and COVID and viewer behavior on online platforms, and larger companies were getting into the space. Large companies need content. So WWE decided to get out of technology and back into what they do best: content creation, production, and storytelling. And they did so utilizing a long-time partner. They've been partners for 30 years with NBC. So then she says that NBC will help sell, market, and promote WWE. They gave a really good example in the Q&A with the WrestleMania announcements, right? How they was done during a football game, and everybody was able to see it, and it was able to become a really big deal, and everybody was talking about it. That was really really cool. So she says that WWE is now going to be by being on NBC, they now have brand recognition along with the NFL and the Olympics. So she says, like, every 3 years there's a Super Bowl, every 2 years is the Olympics, but every year is WrestleMania. There is a WrestleMania. So she's basically saying, like, hey, we have, the same reach as the Super Bowl and as the Olympics in this situation. Now, of course, more people are going to watch the Olympics, but, it is what it is. So she talked about TV viewership stabilized after they left the PC. Raw's ratings were unchanged, but Smackdown's viewers increased 8%. And then she started talking about their pop culture strategy, which I thought was very interesting. Talking about bringing in celebs and sending wrestlers to outside media. So this is their pop culture strategy. When they bring in celebrities or when they send their wrestlers to become celebrities and so they can come back. So she gave 3 examples. One with the Matthew McConaughey interview that they did with Drew McIntyre. 2 with Sasha Banks being on The Mandalorian. And 3 was Bad Bunny. So that gives you an idea of what they've been up to. So she talked about ad sales outpaced industry trends, that they made a banking partner in Credit One, and that they have a beer partner. I forget the name of the parent company. I think it's Constellation or something like that. But it's the owner of Modelo and Victoria. And Victoria is the one where Rey Mysterio was mentioned, because it was the Royal Rumble. He had the symbol on his mask, right? So that's where you get the authentic voices in specific markets, because Rey Mysterio was able to speak in Spanish to a Mexican audience about, and sell beer to Mexicans in Spanish because he's really Mexican, and authenticity is very important. As you talked about that Cricket Wireless deal, the GM Silverado deal, Snickers coming back to host to help pay for WrestleMania, or being a partner. They call them partner for WrestleMania. And they said WWE is going to be essentially dedicated to having authentic influencers and customizing content creation And I thought this was very interesting. We've just talked a little bit about the authentic influencers, having people who speak Spanish speak to the Spanish audience. You put Jinder Mahal, who's Indian, on the Indian TV show, or the Indian special, that kind of thing. But the customized content creation, I found that to be very interesting as well. Because this is where you get, the Street Profits and Ric Flair in a Skittles commercial. You get that really creepy KFC commercial from a couple years ago, where I think you had the wrestlers dressed as Colonel Sanders. You have that kind of stuff. That's customized content creation. Customized commercials, utilizing WWE talent. So that was real. That was real interesting. So that was Stephanie. I'm gonna skip all the Christina stuff and go to the Q&A, because I think the Q&A was very interesting. So in the Q&A, they talked about, one of the questions was, WWE, Peacock, the deal, the cost. Are there any migration expenses? And Christina said that there will be first quarter, and that, these sorts of things are in the guidance that they provided to investors. And the second question was, is there a financial side of the Peacock deal on revenue offsets or special sponsorships? So Stephanie responded that they can't comment on specifics on sponsorships, but the brand is rubbing elbows with the Olympics and the Super Bowl. And Christina says that the offsets, of course, are a loss of sub revenue, but that's it. So the third question was about content flexibility. And this question this question really made me laugh, because this guy was talking about, is it possible for you to move content from pay-per-views to Raw to help Raw's ratings? And I just literally was like, didn't Stephanie just tell you less than an hour ago that people are more likely to consume this shit online? And you talking about TV ratings? It's an idiot question. Anyway, Nick responded that if both parties agree, then yes, there is room for that. But the focus is on growing Peacock's subscription base. So somebody asked a really good question, a lady. She says that she was talking about network subscriptions. She says, there was 1.1 million Americans running that had the network, but there was 1.6 million, 1.5 million or whatever subscribers total, but 1.1 million of them were American. So she says, how was running 50 different countries for 400,000 subs a good business model, and that perhaps you should look into selling more rights fees to other companies, kind of like they do in Canada. So Nick says that, they have international plans and they're trying to grow sponsorships and partnerships so they can do stuff like that. But that was a really good question. Like, if the bulk of your network subscriptions were Americans, what the hell were you doing in the other countries that only got 400,000 views, subs? But I think that also is international TV deals, and maybe they have, blocks and different things like that people might have on it. So there's no way of knowing, but that was a really good question. So somebody asked, they say, since what are your key revenue opportunities since the TV rights deals are done and the Peacock deal is done? Basically, how are you going to be bringing in money now that you, other than just licensing off? How are you creating new revenue streams? And Nick says that there are international opportunities, and and he talked about the sponsorships that Stephanie has took over and been working on, as she talked about, the GM and Cricket Wireless and the banking and all that type of stuff. He said there'll be more stuff like that. There will be more scripted and unscripted TV, and the new merchandise that they'll be putting out, like the Bad Bunny merchandise and the customized championships for specific teams and stuff like that. Those things will have, he says they're going to be pretty pricey. So if you're looking to buy like a Los Angeles Lakers championship and sometime soon, you're probably going to pay a pretty penny for it. So the seventh question was about TV rights trends, and essentially, what are they doing? And this is the question that really I saw the Meltzers of the world talking about. So Nick Khan says that they don't believe that they're losing eyeballs, but they're shifting from linear to digital platforms. And he says if you compare the revenue to those numbers, that they are significant and they're up. Basically, that if you look at how much money they're making and whether that money is coming in from, let's say, Facebook or YouTube or elsewhere, it's actually people are finding the content in other places, not just TV, right? And they seem to have a field day with this as if this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, right? Now, I'm not an appeal to authority kind of guy, right? Just because Nick Khan has his job doesn't mean he knows what the fuck he's doing, what the fuck he's talking about, right? But you should probably know his job well or have some information that can disprove what he's talking about. Like if the company is making more money than ever, which is the overall trend of this thing, as they continue to make more money than ever, then how is what he's saying wrong? Now, if he was saying that they were moving from linear to digital, and you see that their revenues are down, and that they're not making more money than ever, they're actually losing money, these sorts of things, then you could say, well, how can you justify that and you're losing money? He's saying, hey, we're finding money in other places. People are paying us through Facebook. People are paying us through YouTube. People are paying us through Instagram and through all of these other different channels where they're watching our product. They're not necessarily sitting down watching Raw for 3 hours straight. They're watching through other mediums. This is the crazy thing. And this is the thing that frustrated me so much about it, is because this is consistent with what I've seen on other sites, Variety and Deadline and other news sites that talk about the industry. They have all talked about TV ratings going down. And basically he says, like, basically the news are winning right now, that, with COVID and the elections, that but these things will eventually subside and the eyeballs will return to linear consumption. Those were his words. So he says he feels good about their position, and so do their network partners. So he's speaking on behalf of Fox and USA, NBC, or whatever. Now remember, WWE is supposed to be failing, and they just got $1 billion out of nowhere for the network. And they've been saying this whole WWE is failing and they're losing money and yada, yada, yada. They've been saying this shit for years. And it's not true. It's just not true. People are finding other ways. Like, it's crazy that they say this, and then they talk about, when you look at the information that they're giving you, they're giving you information about all the people who watched the Bad Bunny segment, right? They talking about this sort of stuff. They're talking about the YouTube views. They're talking about these things. They're telling you about it, and then you ignore all of that information because it doesn't fit your narrative. Your narrative is TV ratings are down, therefore nobody's watching this shit. They're saying, okay, maybe nobody's watching TV, but look at all these other ways of people watching TV. And you're like, no. We need to talk about cable, because that's all I know about, because that's all Dave Meltzer told me about. I don't know if this guy was a follower of Meltzer. I can't know that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. So here's the eighth question. A guy asked about do they expect copycatting? He didn't say the word copycatting, but he basically says that competitors coming into the space and licensing out products and stuff like that. And he says, how are you are you giving up anything on this? On this Peacock deal? And one of his things was fan relationship. Essentially, now you're asking fans to give money to NBC, and instead of giving money to you directly, that may cause some problems with fans. I saw a lot of people who did believe that, though. They were like, I would rather give my money directly to WWE and not have to give money to NBC, because there are a lot of people who don't like NBC. I'm one of them. I just don't like NBC. I don't really like large corporations in general, period. But so Nick Khan basically says that it was just basically the right time to do it. And he talked about, fan relationship. He talked about the WrestleMania announcement that NBC did. And he talked about the Peacock deal was already done when they did this. But he says that, they expect NBC to help promote all of their events, to promote, like, that's crazy. They're going to have NBC promoting B pay-per-views, not just WrestleMania, but also like random Money in the Bank stuff, random Clash of Champions stuff. It's going to be promoted by NBC. And, you know, that's how they plan to increase fan relationship, is by doing fun things, utilizing NBC's reach, by doing fun vignettes and fun skits like they already did for the WrestleMania segments. So that was pretty much it. They were asked if there was going to be an upcharge for special events like WrestleMania, and Christina said no. Basically, you'll get everything for $4.99. And they said, when they was asked about Fox and their relationship with Fox and all that type of stuff, they said that Fox is the one who put together the backstage for the Royal Rumble, and that they expect that Fox has no problems with it. Another thing that I thought was very interesting, I don't see did I skip it? I must have skipped it by mistake. Because I had a whole other list of questions that I need to go through. Okay, so they were asked, how will WWE content be evaluated by NBC Universal? Like, how are they going to know whether what you're doing is worth it? So Nick Khan said that the 3 R's of the partnership are ratings, revenue, and relevancy. Oh, that was hard for me to say. So ratings, revenue, and relevancy. So relevancy is excitement. How excited are people to, you know, sign up to Peacock or, you know, stand on Peacock for WWE content? Can the revenue is, can they sell ads? Essentially, can you sell ads on the WWE content? And the ratings, of course, are the subscriptions. Are people subscribing to Peacock for WWE content? So number 10 was another Dave Meltzer question. The death. Now, when I call it a Dave Meltzer question, it doesn't mean Dave Meltzer asked the question. I should say that. It just means that it's something Dave Meltzer put out there that investors probably saw and they decided to ask about, like TV ratings and shit like that. This is another one, because Dave Meltzer is the one who put out there that the death of NBC Sports was going to mean that Raw and maybe NXT was going to have to change nights. Meltzer put this out there himself, okay? So they were asked about the death of NBC Sports Network and the move of content from USA and its impact on Raw and NXT. So Nick says that it really doesn't have any impact on them, that the cable universe will see more consolidation, and that essentially bundles have become unbundled, and that those channels which were being propped up by bigger channels will cease to exist, and that content migration will happen, but it will have no effect on Raw or SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown or NXT. I mean, Raw or NXT. Shit. The USA shows. That he doesn't see any way that this is going to have an effect. Interesting. Considering this shit came out of nowhere, and people just thought some guy on the internet said it. But I would think they would know, you know. But at the same time, it's hard to tell because, you know, you have the NHL, and the NHL license for NBC Sports or whatever ends in, I believe, June or July. I think it's actually July, mid-July. So that's the thing that you really have to worry about is NHL, because NHL was Wednesday, because Wednesday night was hockey night. I just saw that because I was looking into the NBCSN thing. I was going to do a video on it, but then I was like, I'm just going to wait until the contract run out, which of course is like 4 or 5 months. So they were asked, how will the network Peacock deal affect future TV deals, especially in the United States? And could Raw or SmackDown become exclusively digital? This was an excellent question because it builds off the information that they're being told. They're saying, okay, well, you guys are telling us that you get a lot of views online, you know, and that most of the people are looking online. Why not just go full online? Why not just put Raw or SmackDown, you know, stream Raw or SmackDown? Why just not, you know, just go that route? So this is what Nick Khan had to say. He says that they're looking for partners. They always open for partners, and they say they're looking at their partners' plans. In other words, what are the partners that they're incumbent partners, people that they're already working with? What are their plans? What are their goals, et cetera, et cetera? But they're open to all buyers, you know. And then he started talking about Amazon and how Amazon is dealing with the NFL and looking to snap up NFL content, He says that we're speculating on other people's property here, but this is what they kind of use as a guidepost. It's called benchmarking. That's something I learned in a class. You benchmark by looking at things that are similar to you. And Nick Khan, of course, had to be humble and say, look, I don't compare us to the NFL, but, it's a similar thing. And he's right. The NFL is a content provider, just like the WWE, just like the NBA, just like the NHL, just like the UFC, just like anybody who just promotes and creates content. That's what they do. And because they promote and create content, there's going to be people looking to buy that content. And he's saying that, Amazon might be streaming football games exclusively on their services. So there may be people who are looking to pay WWE to stream Raw or Smackdown exclusively on their services. But they'll deal with that when the time comes, essentially. So they were also asked about the profitability of the Saudi events. That how significant are the Saudi Arabian events? And Christina responded that the fourth quarter shows the impact, and that a lack of what they kept calling it large international events had a 50% or $56.4 million loss due to lower ad revenues and higher production costs. So she said she was asked, does that mean one event or both events there was some talk about one Saudi event making money and another Saudi event not making as much money. And she says that's basically a hyper theoretical concept because it's based a lot on the where, the timing, and different expectations and things like that. So that was it. That was all the interesting stuff. There was a lot of accounting jargon and all that kind of shit. I'm just not at liberty to go into. But I thought this was very interesting. And I think I'm gonna probably do more of these because you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the internals of the WWE, and you see why they do certain things. So this is very interesting. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What have you been seeing from the various sites? I know some people maybe have brought in accountants to look at the books and that type of stuff. I'm not gonna do that. Like, that's very mundane shit. And a lot of these people manage to get it wrong anyway, because they have boomer mindsets, which is focused on one or two metrics when people are looking at hundreds of millions. Well, not let's say hundreds of millions of metrics. That's just nuts. When they're looking at at least a dozen different metrics. But let me know what you guys think. So spread the word, good word of 3-count commentaries by utilizing the hashtag 3-count commentaries. You want to send me money, please do in the comment section below. I will have the link to the Cash App. You could buy me lunch, or you could take the $1 challenge and send me $1 to let me know you appreciate what I do here. And I appreciate you guys. I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah.